Okay, today then we are going to be writing related conditional statements. Let's talk about some symbols first again. Lowercase p represents the hypothesis. Lowercase q represents the conclusion. P, arrow, Q. That means if P, then Q. Or if the hypothesis, whatever it should be, then the conclusion, whatever it should be. This symbol, curly line in front of the P, that means that's how you call, or what you call, negating the hypothesis. That means negate hypothesis. In parentheses here, just put the word not. We'll explain it more in a second here. So if that symbol means not the hypothesis, then this symbol means negate the conclusion. Which means also use the word not. So now we're going to kind of take everything and we're going to put it together into a chart that you can use to write these related conditional statements, okay? And here's what it looks like. We're going to say your 4 conditionals. We're going to list their names and then the symbols. The first statement is called a conditional. The symbol for a conditional statement is P arrow Q. And what it means, do you have room over here on your paper? It means if P, then Q. Second statement, it's called a converse. It's the converse of the conditional. The symbol for converse is Q arrow P. What you do when you write the converse of a conditional is you switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So what that means is if Q, then P. The third statement you're going to write today is called an inverse statement. The symbol for the inverse statement is negate P, then negate, Q. And what that means is if not P, then not Q. The fourth statement you're going to write today is called a contrapositive. And when you write a contrapositive statement, you negate the original conclusion, and then you negate the original hypothesis. And what that means is your statement will look like if not Q, then not P. Make a little bit of sense? Okay, so now we're going to do an example where I'm going to give you a conditional statement, and then we're going to write the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive of that statement. Okay? So, let's say that our conditional statement let's go with if two angles are supplementary, then they sum 180. There's your conditional statement. Your hypothesis follows the if. So your hypothesis would be two angles are supplementary. The conclusion follows the word then. The conclusion of this conditional is they sum 180. If hypothesis, then conclusion. P arrow Q. So now we're going to write the converse of this statement. The converse of the statement, the symbol for that is Q, then P. So what we're going to do in this converse statement is we're going to switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So we're going to start the statement with if. Now, our conclusion was they sum 180. What's the they in this case? The angles. All right, so if two angles some 180, comma, or you don't need a comma. Let's undo the comma. If two angles sum 180, then, alright, so we're going Q then P. We're going if conclusion, then hypothesis. Our hypothesis was two angles are supplementary. So if two angles sum 180, then we're going to say they are supplementary. So you were given a conditional statement. You identified the hypothesis and the conclusion. You were asked to write the converse. The converse of a statement is when you switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So there's our converse statement. The next statement is an inverse statement. Now, in an inverse statement, the symbol for that is to negate the hypothesis, then negate the conclusion. We're going to say if two angles are not supplementary, you negate the hypothesis by using the word not. You just have to place it in the correct position so that your sentence still makes sense. If two angles are not supplementary, then they do not sum 180. Negated the hypothesis and negated the conclusion. The last statement is called a contrapositive. And the symbol for contrapositive is to negate the conclusion and then negate the hypothesis. And what it really is, if you see a pattern yet, like the conditional statement, the symbol for it was P, then Q. If you look at the pattern, you go P arrow Q, Q arrow P. The inverse negates the original conditional, not P, not Q. And the contrapositive negates the converse, not Q, then not P. So if you just go back to your converse statement and you negate, that's going to be your contrapositive. So we're going to say that if two angles do not sum 180, then they are not supplementary. Those are your four related conditional statements. Those are the symbols for those statements. And those are examples of how to write each of those four statements. Does anybody have any questions on any of those or how to do that? Alright, very good. Then I want you to practice on your own a little bit today. So take a look at page 111. And on page 111, I would like you to do 16 and 17. Nope, I'm sorry, I want you to do 16. And then over on the next page, I want you to do 47, 48, and 49. Actually, just do 16, 47, and 48. Because that right there is, you got 4 sentences for each problem. So that's 12 sentences right there. Okay? Just refer to your chart. Write the conditional is given. You just have to write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of each statement that's given.